to Zach Gelb. He joins us on 365 Sports. And, of course, Zach with us most every Wednesday in the 5 o'clock hour from Infinity Sports Network, also a part of Sirius at XM. Hello, my friend. How are you?
I think I'm going to go by ZG for now on.
There you go. ZG with a little bit of dingy on it. Now, what are your thoughts on this Matthew Sluka? The different reporting, looks like everybody could have done this better, but what are your overall impressions?
So if you put a gun to my head and you said, okay, what do you think happened here? I'm going to say the coach promised something that he didn't have as his resources, and they kept on saying, hey, that this will find a way to get the job done. And then eventually the kid just had enough, and he said, okay, I got to make my money in this time that I can, so I'm going to use my red shirt here. There's no winners in this situation, but when the story first came out, and I don't think we'll ever know the truth, or we won't know it for a while, I thought three things, like either the initial NIL commitment wasn't being kept, or maybe after the hot start, he wanted more money and tried to renegotiate, or here was the third option, but I think it would be in response to one or two. Maybe there was another bigger school that came along and said, hey, go use your red shirt. We hear you're having a money problem. We'll give you the money and you could join us next year. So it stinks all around. But if you said, Zach, how do you think this played out? I'd probably say the coach got involved, one of the coaches, and he promised something that he couldn't deliver on.
How many times do you think we'll see this in the future?
Well, there's no relegation of it. It's the wild, wild west. Now, I'm all for players getting paid, but it's so stupid what the NCAA does here. All these coaches, we know this, they talk to these players about money, and, some schools are just better using the right paper trail and with the collective and their relationship with them. Like, we already ripped the Band-Aid off, and also, Pandora's box is already open. I don't get why the coaches can't be the ones really running point on this when we all know that they do. So will this be the first time? It's the first time we know about that it happened. Will it be the last? Absolutely not.
Zach, we got to go to Lincoln last week to check out the Illinois game. It had a runza, had the whole experience. It was a great time. Besides the outcome, obviously, a really tough loss for Nebraska. What'd you think of the Huskers and the Illini and just how all that shook out?
Well, I am now banning Smokey from ever being able to go to Lincoln again. We finally got him there, and everything was all bright for the Cornhuskers. Then I guess they were celebrating too much of Smokey at halftime, and that's been a problem for Nebraska. Really good in the first half. Second half, it hasn't been a clean product. But I think Dylan Raiola in the first half looked great, and I even tweeted it out. Man, it's crazy how this kid doesn't even look close to a freshman. He looks like a junior. And then his line and himself had some freshman moments and some young moments in that second half. I thought that Illinois was going to lose the game, but I thought they would cover the number. So I thought the game was going to be closer than most, but give credit to Bielema, give credit to their quarterback. Nebraska should still be an 8-win program, maybe at most this year, 9, which is obviously a step in the right direction. But I think this makes them go back to work a little bit and, realize, hey, you can't overturn this thing right overnight. And there's going to be like a tough moment or two here or there before you start to get this thing really humming.
Well, they have Purdue next, and there's no gimmies because they have been capable of like blowing a tire. I'm talking Nebraska.
Yeah.
But the Indiana Rutgers games, one of them is at home, I think, a homecoming. Those two teams are playing pretty well.
Tougher than what we thought it was going to be when the schedule came out.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so Alabama, Georgia. Alabama, as Keith Jackson used to say, roll tide, all that. What a game. It's an early season game. We need one of these. I thought Michigan, USC was a nice game. Obviously, Texas, Michigan, Texas blew them out. But this game coming up Saturday night, DeBoer, his first real big game as the head coach against Kirby Smart in Georgia.
Yeah, I like Alabama in the game. I was higher on most with Alabama going into the season. I picked Alabama against Georgia in the national championship game, and I did have Georgia winning the game by 10 points. But I love the receiver Williams. Milroe has benefited and will continue to benefit with Kalen DeBoer as his head coach, and I think the Bama defense is going to cause some problems for Carson Beck. The only thing that concerns me is that Georgia, like if I'm trying to pick Alabama here, which I am, Georgia, their last time out, they didn't have a clean product. They only beat Kentucky by 1 point. Mark Stoops, I thought, was coaching scared late in that game. He should have gone for it. on that fourth down play instead of punting the ball back. I think Kirby Smart kind of thrives off a game that they won that they could have lost, because now he could coach his guys up in a stricter way, and they actually have to listen because they're just not blowing out everybody. But I think this is going to be a classic. Could be a high-scoring game maybe in this one, but I like Alabama to edge them out, Georgia at home.
Zach, one game that's not, it's kind of a fly under the radar a little bit here because Georgia and Alabama are playing is Illinois and Penn State. Illinois is legit. We saw them last week, that they played a great. Luke Altmaier has rebounded from a rough year last year. Penn State's better with Andy Kotelnicki. What do you think about this one?
I think Penn State wins, but I saw that spread is now up to Illinois being a 19-point dog. Mm-hmm. I would plus the points on that one. Bielema has a team that's going to be competitive. We saw what they did last week up against Nebraska. Okay, can they do that back-to-back weeks? We'll have to see. But I'm curious what Penn State is. I think this is a game that is enormous for Penn State because in week one, they impressed everyone, beating the snot out of West Virginia, and they followed it up with a very lackluster performance up against Bowling Green. I get that happens when you go up against an inferior opponent and they still won the game, but I'd be very curious how Penn State wins this game, because if they win so by 3 touchdowns, all right, you feel more like how you did about Penn State after the West Virginia game. But if this is a game that's close, it's like, okay, this is what Penn State's been under Franklin. They're a good program, but they're far away from being a great program.
Baylor's, and Matt Rule more specifically, is what connects us all here and what eventually led to having this segment, years down the road. Did you get a chance to watch that Colorado result in live action? What were your thoughts?
Oh, boy. That's the nail in the coffin for Dave Aranda. And Dave Aranda's a nice guy. I like Dave Aranda, but you lose a game like that where they almost allowed that touchdown twice with the ball getting dropped, and then right after that, boom, you hit the touchdown. That's a brutal look. But really, my biggest takeaway from it, I'm a Heisman voter, and you put 3 names on the Heisman Trophy ballot. The Heisman's not given out in September, but right now, Travis Hunter, with the award goes to the most outstanding player in college football. He has to be in one of those 3 spots. Ashton Genty out of Boise State, also someone you need to consider, and Cam Ward. We'll see what other names do emerge as you got Beck and Milroe that could still make statements. Nico Iamaleava's having a really good year at Tennessee, even though Tennessee won that game more so because of their defense and their offense up against Oklahoma. But that was a terrible. And there's bad losses, and then there's just brutal. And I mean, absolutely brutal losses. How Baylor lost that game, really disappointing. Losses like that can't just happen with how long Dave Aranda has been there now.
Yeah, that's just one of those that, you have BYU, a top 25 team who hammered K-State. If you happen to win that game, it'll be nice if you're Baylor, and a great bounce back. But then you go, damn, we could be 4-1, 2-0 in the conference. Not that it's going to get out of control, but that was just inexcusable, despite the fact Baylor seemed to have a pretty good game plan for that game, in my opinion. Your thoughts, you said, so you have Beck, Milroe, Ewers, who's I know missed a game or 2.
Yeah.
And then Shedeur, but it is Travis Hunter. I mean, he's the one that makes it all go, although Shedeur made the big throw. And then a couple of others, Ashton Genty at Boise State. But right now, is it somewhat wide open no matter what the odds are saying?
Yeah, I absolutely think it's wide open. Like Miami, they should be undefeated.
Yeah.
So if Miami's undefeated, Cam Ward, you probably think, because that award, it usually goes to the best, the quarterback on a team that is in the college football playoff, or a conference champion. So yeah, I would say right now the front runner is Cam Ward, and Genty. I think for him, he could be a finalist. I don't think he will win the award, and Colorado's gonna have to win some games here, because here's what Travis Hunter has that no one else has. He is what Shohei Ohtani is to baseball when Ohtani's allowed to pitch, is what Travis Hunter is to college football. He doesn't take a playoff. He'll have 7 receptions for 130 yards, and then he'll pop the fumble out and the ball out and get a fumble at the end of the game. To see that two-way ability, it is really unbelievable. But Colorado's going to have some team success if he's going to want to go win that award.
That is, I mean.
Jackson Dart, too. If Ole Miss continues, don't forget about Jackson Dart.
Yeah. But it is weird to me to see the odds on him right now. He's so far behind all these other players. I would have just figured he'd be somewhere, towards the end of the top, as opposed to towards kind of the bottom of people getting odds, just because of what he's doing has not been done.
I think it just shows you that we all expect it to just be a quarterback each and every year. And I'll give you one other dark horse name, if you want to say. Will Johnson at Michigan. Michigan, we think of their defense first. I talked to Will Johnson earlier in the week, and I brought up the Heisman Trophy to him. And he talked about how he's focused on the team. But he did say, I've had some conversations with the coaching staff about maybe getting me some burn on the offensive side of the ball. I know he's dealing with the shoulder injury right now. He said he's going to be fine. I don't know if he's going to play this weekend up against Minnesota, but maybe that's something to watch later in the year. If Michigan bounces back, I know they had the win up against USC after losing to Texas, and no one's really taking that Heisman spot. If Will Johnson already has 2 pick sixes, maybe against Ohio State, they let him get into the end zone on the offensive side of the ball.
What would happen if Travis Hunter started to get more involved in special teams and ran a kick or a punt back?
I think we'd all be looking at him like Desmond Howard, right? Like, seriously.
Johnny Rodgers, Woodson, Desmond Howard, Tim Brown, and that was something that they did. Now, most of those guys I mentioned, of course, were on offense, not Woodson was a defensive player, but I think with that, and who knows, maybe they stick him back there and he takes one back 75 yards.
Yeah, so I don't think Travis Hunter, it can't hurt, but I don't think he needs to do anything else outside of Colorado just has to win more games.
Yeah.
If they win more games, Travis Hunter, you're going to have, if he's not a finalist for the Heisman Trophy, then I lost faith in a lot of my fellow voters. Like, hey, if they only win one more game, okay, I can understand leaving him off the ballot, but it's for the most outstanding player in college football, and he does something at a level that we haven't seen in a while.
Yeah, I that would just be if there was a huge moment, you stick him back. He might have one return, but it would be awesome for him if he was to be able to take it back a long, long way. What are your thoughts? We mentioned Matthew Sluka about now the Pac-12 and the Mountain West Conference are having their feud. They had anytime someone ever uses again the term alliance in any sentence, it's disaster.
Yeah, it's
like
BS.
The Big Ten, the ACC, and the Pac-12, and now their alliance scheduling. Your thoughts about what's going to be the end game here?
So I think the end game is to be the premier non-Power 4 conference and to put yourself in an ability with how the structure is for the college football playoff. The 5 highest ranked conference champions get an automatic spot in the college football playoff. It's for the Pac-12 to build that conference where they're picking the Pac-12 representative every year or almost every year. Now, the American Athletic Conference is going to have something to say about that because they thought they were going to be able to get some of their schools, and then those schools said, hey, we're going to stay in the AAC. But this is not going to be something that just because the Pac-12 is back with the brand that we're going to be viewing the Pac-12 in the same breath as the ACC and the Big 12. And you could obviously forget of us ever looking at the Pac-12 in the same breath as the SEC and the Big 10. There's still a difference with those 4 conferences, and I would say the ACC is the worst of those 4 conferences right now. So if you take it even from the ACC to what this relook Pac-12 is going to be, the ACC is still better.
All right, you're taking the first 3 weeks of the NFL season. Minnesota with Darnold, they're red hot. Cowboys they can't stop the run. Giants in a short week, and we know they're not very good. If Dallas goes to New York or Meadowland, what do they call it now? MetLife
Stadium,
dump. They may not be. If they don't beat the Giants tomorrow, is Mike McCarthy in trouble?
So Jerry Jones, like a lot of people think Jerry Jones is impatient, and that's a misnomer. Like, I don't think the Cowboys are making the playoffs. I said that before the season started. I thought there was too much drama and too many people wondering about their future. But the conversation is going to be out there, and Jerry Jones has already had the conversation. He thinks he'll work well with Bill Belichick.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the year, and you remember when Garrett, he didn't get fired, his contract ran out, and then they moved on from him because they didn't renew him. McCarthy's contract's up at the end of the year. So I'd be surprised, even though he's had 3 12-win seasons, if McCarthy is back. And then the question becomes, can they go get Bill Belichick, and would Bill Belichick want to work with Jerry Jones?
Jerry can talk his way into getting most people to come aboard. I mean, you do that with Bill Parcells. You wonder if Bill Belichick, I think he would like that challenge. That's my thing. Is he's like, oh, okay, nobody else has been able to do this, and everybody's saying I only did this because of Brady. I can tame Jerry Jones. This will be a good last ride for both of us. But you're right. People think he's impatient. The problem is sometimes he's too impatient or too patient. Like,
Yeah.
He was very patient with the roster this year when now it was time to maybe be a little impatient.
Yeah, and also they should have got the Dak deal done. We all knew the Dak deal was going to get done eventually. They should have got it done before free agency because then they could have moved the money around and then they could have afforded a player like Derrick Henry. He knew that, so that's why I thought his Derrick Henry comments were laughable. But here's the thing with Bill. Bill's very close to the Shula record. You could go to Dallas and you could break that Shula record in Dallas. But do you want to win a Super Bowl? Because if you go to Dallas, there could be a better destination out there like Philadelphia where you have a better chance to win a Super Bowl. So it's what does Bill want and what is priority number one for Bill Belichick? Because remember, even though I think the Brady-Belichick argument is stupid, they both needed each other to reach the levels that they did. And I would always say, and Bill would even say, hey, it's all about the players, that Brady was slightly more important than Belichick. Brady did win without Bill. Bill hasn't won without Brady. So if you go to Dallas, you'll break that Shula record. You can maybe make the postseason here and there. But are you probably going to get to a Super Bowl? I would say no. And I look at Philadelphia, Sirianni, man, that guy has really soured, and I've soured on Sirianni, and I'm saying that politely. And they have a good GM in place in Howie Roseman, and I think there's a mutual respect there. So if Howie wants to give a little and Bill wants to give a little, you have Howie pick the roster, Bill coach the team, you'd have a better chance to win a Super Bowl in Philly than you would with the Cowboys.
Hey, by the way, how ironic was it Derrick Henry goes back and plays Dallas where he lives, and he was available, and their run game is non-existent. Now, they may run for 250 against the Giants. I don't know.
And Smokey, I think you'd be better than the Cowboys running backs now.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Even with those hip problems that you got.
Very just okay. And if that, and he goes in there and goes off on them in his stadium. Don't you know, Cowboys fans, that just burned their ass?
Yeah, well, this team didn't get better this offseason. So the only way you could actually make the case for the Cowboys to make the playoffs before the season started was because the NFC is just not a strong conference. So that it wasn't like, oh, the Cowboys are good here and good there and great there and they got better here. No, it's just because the conference has not been as good as the AFC in the last few years. So that's why I picked the Cowboys to miss, because I said, okay, let me have another team surprise and emerge, like, hey, look what's happened with Minnesota or some other teams around the league as well. And the Cowboys, there are a lot of people thinking about their future, and they didn't get better this offseason.
Zach, thank you. I did what Matt Rule demanded I do. We might get him on. He's got to win some more games or we're going to be all over him. But we made the trip. It was fantastic. It's a lot easier to go up there. He had, I think Southwest Airlines may have added a nonstop flight from Dallas to Link or Omaha. Okay. It was phenomenal. Like you said, the fan base is amazing. Big disappointment at the end. But it seems like he's helping them, I'll knock on wood, turn the corner.
Well, Smokey, here's all I'm gonna say. When I went last year, they got destroyed by Michigan. You went last year, they lose to Illinois. So I don't think either of us are ever going to be asked to go there anytime soon again.
And I'm telling you, you say they may get to 8 or 9 wins. I'm still trying to get some sleep. Are they going to get to 6? Thank you.
Oh, they'll
Zach,
get to 6.
Great stuff, buddy. Appreciate you, man, all the time. Infinity Sports Network and the great Zach Gelb with us Wednesdays on 365 Sports.